Well, the last thing we want to really talk about in this segment is that what we want to do is we want people to understand that Clayton Christensen was a professor at Harvard, and he brought up something that was, I think, really valuable and applicable to much of our work today as a teacher, and that is teachers have jobs to do, and we define what that job is to create that 21st century workforce, right? And we talked about the three tiers that we're going to develop: basic skills, managerial skills, and entrepreneurial skills. That keeps it really simple for us, right? And so we stay focused on those three areas. Now, the one thing that we have to do is we have to have tools that allow us to build that process, right? And so a flipped classroom is a tool that we use in order to be most supportive of our students while they're going through that learning process, right? If they're at home and they're actually practicing, we can't see them, we can't offer them the resources that are available. They don't have our expertise, and so in order to best support students during that learning process, we use a tool called the flipped classroom. Now, very similar to when we're designing units, right? We want to design with the end in mind. So we're going to use a tool called backwards design, right? So we're going to have targets. We're going to have standards that we want to, that we're looking to develop. Topics, skills, and techniques within students, right? Those are things that we want students to acquire. So we have to design what we call a process, right? A learning process. And then it involves, teaching and, exercises and activities. So we're going to develop a process, and then it also involves assessments. So those assessments are, again, tools. Processes and activities are tools that we use within a classroom. Technologies could be considered a tool, right? And those tools have to have value within our classroom, right? And so hopefully that makes a lot of sense. So the concept is we have a goal that we have to, we have a goal of creating 21st century skills. And then we have to think about what is the tool that we're going to use in order to do the job. And I think that that's really, really valuable in our thought process, because tools do change over time based on the job or the conditions that we see. Not every classroom's the same. Not every tool will be the same. Just like I use calculators in mathematics, and you may use a laptop to create a paper in, let's say, a literature class or what have you. I may use different tools in science, like I may use a lab, because I'm doing an experiment in science. I may, if it's a vocational class, then I might be in a workshop environment with different tools, depending on what the goal is, and depending on the conditions that I see. We adopt tools around that. So we have a job to do, and then we pick the tools, which are process, activities, technologies, assessments that align to the goal of them, which we're reaching, where we're trying to do. So it's that simple. And so what we want to do is we want to bring these concepts to you: the growth mindset, the 1%, and then the tools that we adopt. And then so that way, when we're talking about developing basic skills, what tools are we going to use in order to develop basic skills? The next thing is, if we're talking about managerial skills, what tools are we going to use to develop managerial skills? And then the third thing is, entrepreneurial or ownership skills. What tools are we going to use in order to develop entrepreneurial or ownership skills, right? And so we have to consider those things, as all three could be. Some could be the same, some could be different, based on the what we see in our goals, and also maybe the conditions that we see. Now, the conditions could be changing. Like if I have students with, an abundance of technology, I may use one tool. If I have students who have an occasional technology or no technology at all, I may use different tools around that, right? Also it's based on skill sets of kids, right? So the conditions that we see, the access, the skill sets, and how comfortable we are, the culture that we're in, are the conditions that we often see. And so we have to make a decision on what type of tool are we going to use and what type of conditions in order to get the outcome that we're looking for. And so that's what we'll be talking about in our tool segment.